I'm Raina Rose, and this is your trusted resource for sustainability news. Theodore Rolf van den Boomen is head of communications in Neste North America. Neste is a Finnish company, one that has evolved from an oil corporation to one of the world's leading renewable companies over the past 15 years. Theodore is responsible for Neste's brand and reputation in North America. Through creative storytelling and stakeholder engagement, he focuses on raising awareness about the important role advanced biofuels must play in the energy mix and creating the space for Neste to help more American businesses and cities achieve their climate goals. Theodore, welcome researching Neste and all the work you guys do in sustainable fuels. I got so excited. Of course, my area of expertise is in the sustainable aviation fuels, and I was researching that first. But I've been so pleasantly surprised the more I see all the work you do in these different industries across American business that have really helped boost economies as well as help the environment at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a pleasure, and I've been at the company now coming up. I think I actually just hit my 1-year anniversary a couple days ago, and it's that purpose, that same story you saw. For me, it started in the renewable chemical side of it, but what brought me in was this clear purpose-driven organization that had a vision for how to create a healthier planet and a product portfolio that can also generate positive returns to the bottom line while doing it.
Absolutely, and that's what I love about Neste. Neste is really one of the leaders in turning trash into treasure, so to speak, and creating really powerful biofuels and materials out of materials that would have otherwise just been waste. Tell us a little bit about that 15-year journey for Neste, and even more importantly, what does the future of sustainable fuels look like moving forward?
Yeah, so one of the good things to always do coming in new to an organization is spend time really getting to know the people who have been there from the beginning and hearing their perspectives. So I got to hear firsthand from a lot of folks who saw that transition from day one to where we are now. And in short, what I'll say is that transition in the beginning was actually a little bit of a scary one. It was a transition not driven by any real regulations at the time at Neste. It was more a recognition just at the company's senior leadership level that this whole climate change thing was a real problem. Well, the rest of the world was, a little bit fun statement here, looking at it as an inconvenient truth. Neste was still looking at it as a real challenge that needed to be addressed. And the way a company like Neste could play a role is accelerating that phase of the fossil fuels and moving towards a cleaner, renewable, low-emission product portfolio. So we had challenges. There were times in the beginning where the share price went down very low. A lot of employees had sleepless nights and weren't quite 100% sure if this whole renewable thing would work out. But the company has proved a little bit prescient in what they did. The renewables product business for Neste has taken off in a great way. The value chain has grown to the point that renewable products is now the biggest value driver for Neste. It's what brings most of the revenue in. And it's what's driving the company's strategy and growth going forward. When you look at where our corporate strategy is set, it's all on renewable diesel, it's all on sustainable aviation fuel, and even further looking in the future, it's all on renewable polymers for plastics and other manufacturing operations. So it's a journey that had some tough pain points in it, but it's also one that shows what's possible when a company puts its mind to it and decides to really change that value chain to become purpose-driven, to put planet first, to put a sustainable future first, and then find the product portfolio that fits with the skill sets, fits with the competencies, and ultimately can actually deliver value.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm excited to talk a little bit more about all the companies that have been seeing the value in this product and have actually been increasing their bottom line because of it. I want to get into a little bit about Oakland, California, and how they've been able to use Neste products in order to create a closed loop circular economy. And I'd like to inform our audience a little bit more about what that means. In the area of, I think you said it's both their heavy transport as well as their light transport vehicles and things like that. Tell us a little bit about what Oakland's doing and what you see the future of other cities across America doing with renewable fuels.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll start probably with the bigger picture and then move down to Oakland. So what Neste is fundamentally all about is a closed loop or circular system. Like you said, we are in the business of turning waste into products that are useful, and the waste we use is primarily stuff like used cooking oils, greases, rendered fats, the things that are left over from cooking foods, the hospitality industry, the industrial kitchen industry, the farming industry. We can turn this waste stream, which is chock full of leftover carbon molecules, we can take those, recycle them, and upcycle them, and turn them into renewable fuels. So that's fundamentally kind of what we do in a nutshell. We take waste, we take the base carbon materials in it, and upcycle it into fuels. Where that ties into Oakland is about a year ago, we began providing Oakland with a circular solution in partnership with a local company there called WSO. We began taking waste cooking oils from restaurants in the Oakland city limits and taking those waste materials and turning them into renewable fuels, particularly renewable diesel, that went right back into Oakland's municipal fleets. And when I say municipal fleets, it's a bit of a wide term. It's the emergency response vehicles, the street cleaners, even generators, some of the city's diesel-powered trucks, vans, and SUVs. It's a wide range on it. And the results for the city have been pretty powerful and promising. We're actually working on a one-year anniversary case study with them that will be celebrating this more down the road, really looking in depth at the benefits they've seen. But at a high level, it's their vehicles run better. They're contributing now as a driver for achieving the city's climate goals by taking fossil fuel out of their value chain. And they're setting really a vision and a tone for what other cities can do in creating circular closed loop economy. So any city that has lots of restaurants at the same scale of Oakland, even smaller or bigger, they have restaurants that can be the foundation of generating a raw material that can be used to essentially power their fleets or anything that has a diesel engine in it. It's just a simple plug and play switch. You take the renewable diesel from the waste in the city and you put it in instead of fossil fuel. It's been a great partnership, and I think it really shows the potential of what is doable in this space.
Right. And I love, yes, that it's a drop in fuel and you don't have to change out the mechanics of what you're working with. You said that their vehicles actually run better. I think someone having something new that we've never used before, you think, oh, is this going to gum up my engine? Is this not going to be good for our vehicles? But you said it actually runs better in the vehicles.
Yeah, again, I'm not the technical expert. Actually, I'll be candid and say I'm probably the least best to describe how engines work because I've never actually owned or driven a car in my life. I
Oh,
actually have
wow.
an eye issue that prevents me from doing it. But I've spoken enough with our technical experts and can say anybody who's interested can go to the Neste website and pull up our page on renewable diesel and see all the benefits that can be delivered. And operational performance and reduced maintenance costs is right up there with the environmental. So you can
Wow.
improve the performance of your fleets while achieving your sustainability goals. It doesn't have to be a zero-sum choice, or it doesn't have to be you give up something for something else. You can do both together.
That's incredible. I want to talk about the role Neste has played in helping Dallas-Fort Worth Airport achieve its goal to become a carbon neutral airport. How were you guys able to accomplish this? And did it take a lot of time or infrastructure change?
Yeah, so this project started out really with a company that just joined the Neste family. It's called Mahoney Environmental. We acquired them earlier this year. Mahoney Environmental provides services to any place really with industrial kitchens. So they install equipment, they manage equipment, and one of those services is used cooking oil collection and recycling. So all those feedstocks we mentioned that we use to turn into fuels, Mahoney's a great provider of that. They kind of provide us that integrated vertical value chain now, that end-to-end renewable product value chain. So a couple years ago, Mahoney started doing work with Dallas-Fort Worth to provide an elevated and improved waste cooking oil management system for the airport. So over that time period, Mahoney was able to update some of the systems, improve the collection processes, and make it a safer, more streamlined experience, one that didn't disrupt passengers. You didn't have to deal with odors or things moving around airport terminal hallways, which can be narrow and busy in normal conditions when everyone's rushing from gate to gate. But it just can create a more streamlined experience for passengers and safer working environment for the people involved in this. now what Mahoney does is they take all that used cooking oil, they collect it, and they provide it to Neste. We purchase it from them, and we turn it into renewable fuels. What makes it a bit of an exceptional, helpful thing for Dallas-Fort Worth is they've set their goal to be a carbon neutral airport, and they're looking for ways to both reduce costs, make themselves more competitive, as well as reduce their carbon footprint. And this provides a win-win again on it. Mahoney is able to provide a better streamlined, efficient waste management solution. We're able to take the airport's waste and then turn it into renewable products that in a closed loop system can go reduce emissions immediately and displace fossil fuels immediately in vehicles, primarily in the US West Coast. So Dallas-Fort Worth gets the benefit on the financial operational side, but also on their climate side.
That's incredible because, some of the barriers, I think, it used to be, does biofuel smell like McDonald's, right? And it also used to be the cost involved. But for it to actually increase your bottom line and have profitability to it is an exciting future for sustainable fuels.
You have me laughing when you say, do they smell like McDonald's? Because with one partnership in the Netherlands, they probably do. We have that same closed loop system where we take used cooking oil from McDonald's and turn it into renewable diesel to power some of their logistics fleets, the trucks that go around delivering the foods into the McDonald's restaurants in the Netherlands. So there's a possibility in the Netherlands that indeed the fuel does explicitly smell like them. Like
Jimmy John says, they have free smells, right? They're driving around advertising their smells.
It's entirely possible, yeah.
So getting back to that bottom line, let's talk about some of the bottom line benefits of using renewable diesel. I believe when we spoke before, you had mentioned that certain oil companies have seen their only profitable margins this last quarter in the area of renewable fuels. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, so we're in a very tough environment for anybody who's a fuel producer due to COVID-19. It's just massive demand erosion for gasolines, diesels, jet fuels, traditional conventional oil products. Where that demand erosion has not really materialized is in this renewable products section, and that's for two big reasons. It's one, that these products are being used increasingly more in markets that have policy frameworks that encourage the use of them, and they're being used by companies that have made the commitment to achieve their climate goals, and those companies are not walking back on those commitments. So it's kind of two things. The policymakers have set the path to say, look, we're going to encourage this transition, and then the end user community, and the kind of golden rule of business is take a customer-centric view. End users are saying we want solutions that can help us achieve our climate goals, and renewable diesel, sustainable aviation fuels hit those marks. Renewable diesel specifically, if you look at a company like Valero that's invested a lot of time and money in their recent quarterly reports, it's quite clearly there. Renewable diesel has been the profit generator for them. You can go back to Neste's quarterly results as well, and you'll see again in all of them, the value generation is coming from the renewable product side of it. And it's something that, Neste's known this for a decade since we started this transition. We've seen, after we got through some of those challenging times, we've seen the value potential of this. Our customers have seen the benefits of it. So there's no wonder that the rest of the oil and gas industry is starting to eye this as an industry and a sector to get into. And it leads to the kind of announcements you see as well from Phillips 66 or Marathon, big decisions to convert their units into, or some of their downstream assets, refineries, whole refineries in some cases, to produce more renewable products, specifically renewable diesel and sustainable aviation fuels. And it's also as a nice kind of point, something that can extend the life of downstream and midstream infrastructure for the oil and gas industry. So the stuff that really used to be in the business converting crude oil and moving crude oil and oil products around can be used with minor investment in some cases, or plug and play in others, to do the same stuff for renewable diesels, SAF. You can use the same pipelines to move it around. You can use a slight modifications, downstream equipment to make it, storage tanks, barges, trucks, these things, and even distribution channels. Older gas stations can be retrofitted to sell renewable diesels. This is all stuff that can extend the asset base that's been invested in. So when companies in the oil and gas sector are wondering, what do we do to prevent stranded assets? This is a very easy way to look at it and say, advanced biofuels. That's how I can achieve the goal of meeting my customers' needs for products that can help them achieve their climate goals, and also address this question that my employees or my investors may have about how are you protecting your asset base from becoming stranded in a carbon-constrained world.
Absolutely. So they're able to preserve that existing infrastructure and all the jobs that go with that existing infrastructure, as well as you're saying that the old gas stations, the old pipelines that maybe weren't in use, can be retrofitted to use the renewable fuels.
Yeah, so I'll go back to another Neste project in California. We recently doubled the size of our renewable diesel branded distribution network. So the same way you have kind of Shell, BP, Chevron, big branded fueling stations, our network's not that big, but we're building one out, and now we have big Neste, my branded fueling stations. Those used to be service stations that would have primarily provided conventional oil products, gasolines, diesels, with minimal modifications and mostly just aesthetic ones to make them look nice and improve and enhance the experience when you're seeing them and driving in. They're able to use renewable diesel. And we have a great network of partners who have worked with us on these in California, a great number of distributors who have stepped up as partners to get their stations to work with us on Neste My products. And again, it's a seamless thing. It's just changing fundamentally what goes into the tank. And another example of this is what we did with San Francisco International Airport. And again, this seems like a small thing to a lot of people when we say we delivered sustainable aviation fuel to an airport using an existing pipeline.
Yeah.
But kind of the big challenge people say is you can't get, or one of the big challenges that used to be said is you can't do that. You can't get these renewable products through the infrastructure to the end user, and we've just shown, yeah, you can, and importantly, you can do it drop in. We didn't have to change a thing on that pipeline. No changes are made, no changes to the airport. It was just that fuel went in, and then it was in San Francisco International Airport's fuel pool for any operating entity at that airport to use, commercial, cargo, or private. So this is something that, if you're a midstream company, if you're a downstream company or an integrated oil and gas company with a big downstream presence, with a refinery, with a pipeline network, it's probably worth looking at what role advanced biofuels can play in your value chain. And again, that's why we see Phillips 66 making these investments, Marathon, Valero, and even now Exxon with big news for them coming out to say they were going to invest more in purchasing renewable diesel as well.
Absolutely, because so I was thinking, if I live in California, so if I were to be in one of these cities in California and just drive my car up, are there right now some fuel pumps that I could fill my car with renewable diesel? Well, my
So it
car's
depends.
so.
Where do you live? Which
If I
part
had
of
a diesel
California?
car.
Yeah, if you had a diesel car, that would be the first one. Our products, we really market them towards what society calls the hard to abate or hard to electrify vehicles, big rigs, cement mixers,
Yes.
airplanes. So look, from Neste's point of view, I think where the single occupancy vehicle market, where the market for our personal cars is going is clear. It's electric.
Yes,
And it's not really one that we really need to worry about competing with, because the journey is pretty well defined on that, and it's great. We applaud that and acknowledge it as a good thing. For these bigger vehicles, that's where there's still a little bit of uncertainty about what the pace of change will be and what it will look like. But our view is that no matter what, even if the future of big rigs is electric, data kind of shows, and I can pull in data from sources like Bloomberg, NEF, that by 2040, 70% of those big vehicles around the world will still run on fossil fuels. And you can number that back and say that's around maybe 40 million barrels of oil a day burned just to power those fleets if we continue business as usual. So that doesn't quite add up with the math we have on what we need to do to protect the planet and kind of mitigate climate change. So there has to be action we can take now, and that's where renewable diesel comes in. You can, without changing anything in your fleet, you can preserve the fleet you've invested in. You can unlock the full value of the fleet you've invested in and future-proof yourself a bit against new regulations, emerging regulations, or strengthening regulations by simply changing the fuel. It's not a different engine you need. It's not a new drivetrain. It's just putting a different nozzle into that fueling port on it, and that's it. You do that, and then you're ready to go. And you immediately will start getting the benefits that go with it, the environmental ones of less greenhouse gas emissions, less pollution, and better operational performance and reduced maintenance costs. Again, these are all kind of things. You can go to the Neste website and you see it on there. It's clearly laid out exactly what kind of benefits you'll get as an end user. So that's really where we target. We target those sectors that need a bit of help in the meantime to these pure zero emission futures, and that's a long way away. So we can't afford to wait, and there's no reason to wait when there's today's solutions like this available. It gets a little bit different when we talk about aviation. There's no real alternative to liquid fuels for aviation.
Right.
I think even presidential candidate Biden came out and said, yeah, this has to play a big role. The House Climate Crisis Committee came out and said, yes, SAF needs to play a big role. So there's a recognition in aviation specifically. But the point is, in either sector, whether it's for the road or the skies, when there's a strong performing fuel that delivers both the environmental and the performance that you need, and specifically on the road side, if you can do it at a comparative cost to conventional diesel, there should be no reason to switch. That should be a no-brainer because you're not paying anymore, but you're getting better benefits.
Yes, and I actually was at one of the Signature Aviations the other day, and they were saying that they just got a huge shipment of SAF or sustainable aviation fuels, and that the cost from just a few years ago has decreased so much because the demand has gone up so much. And so with this increased demand, and we're able to bring those costs down, and everybody's able to use these sustainable fuels.
Yeah, for us, sustainable aviation fuel kind of has been focused in the immediate kind of announcement space of what we've done in the commercial aviation, but you're absolutely right. Private business aviation is a huge potential market for this, for a number of reasons, but I think namely the type of entities and individuals that tend to use private aviation are going to be businesses that have set their own climate change goals and targets, or individuals that have committed to helping fight climate change. And it's kind of that tongue-in-cheek mindset you always get, these private jets flying to Davos, flying to the Aspen Ideas Festival, so people can come there to talk about creating a more sustainable future. And it becomes an easy thing to say, now you can walk that talk better by using this lower emission alternative immediately today.
Absolutely. I mean, I've been a huge advocate for fighting flight shaming because, you know, private flights are so integral to many business models to make sure that they're, you know, the human factor of their employees is taken care of, as well as getting from point A to point B, you know, more efficiently. And when we can do something like a drop-in fuel that is able to cut emissions by up to 85%, then there's no need to be flight shaming anymore, right? I mean, you could be doing better than a car maybe at some point.
Yeah, Rena, you're hitting on something that's really kind of important and near to me, and it's the role aviation plays in all our lives. And I actually think about it this way, that what aviation enables us to appreciate, the diverse cultures of our planet, the great natural beauty it has, to connect with loved ones, one another. These are all things we're trying to preserve by fighting climate change, by creating a sustainable future. A sustainable future is, by de facto, one where we can enjoy all the diverse, rich benefits this planet has on it. So we need to find solutions that can enable us to still use the tools we have and the systems we have, but do it in a much more sustainable way, in a much more lower emission way. And I think for aviation, part of that is a journey that the industry will use to get more modern planes. They'll find ways to optimize their routes, but sustainable aviation fuel will need to play a role. Fundamentally, at the base of it, there's only so much you can do through other channels. You have to address the root cause, and whether it's planes, whether it's big trucks, the root cause is fossil fuels. So what we're providing is that immediate way to start that journey towards a sustainable future. And you know, down the road, maybe something else comes in. We might see that in the road transport side. We might see that in the aviation side, that other solutions do come about. We're a technology agnostic company. The point for us is, let's see that sustainable future be achieved, and let's start that journey now. So the solution's here. There's no reason not to.
Absolutely. And I love that about Neste, and, you know, the way the world's moving forward with sustainability being a main objective for many companies. We see companies like Amazon making pledges, and like you said, a lot of companies out there making pledges to be more sustainable. So for those out there watching who are interested in learning more about Neste, maybe checking out Neste stock, these kind of things, where are they going to go to find more information on this product?
Yeah, so I'll say the first and easiest place is our website, www.neste.us or neste.com for our global one. The first page, the Neste US one, has more information for those who probably want to work with us immediately in the North American market or learn more about our North American footprint. So it's on that page, got all the details about our products, all the specs on it, and importantly, how they can get in contact with us if they any viewer wants to think about using renewable diesel or sustainable aviation fuel in their value chain, or just talk more with us about what the future is for energy in the U.S. and the role advanced biofuels can play. You go to the global site, you'll get a lot more detail on our supply chain, on our transparency commitments, on our traceability and sustainability commitments, and you'll also find information on our share prices, of course. I'll also plug Jeremy Baines, who's the president of Neste US. He's very active on LinkedIn. And I think if you go follow him, you'll usually see a good mix of personal and corporate updates about what's going on with us in the U.S. And as a guy, for Jeremy, who's testified before Congress on advanced biofuels, who's spent a lot of time now really trying to elevate the conversation about renewable diesel and sustainable aviation fuel in the market here, he's a good resource for what people might want to learn about these products and what the opportunity space for them is.
Incredible. Well, thank you so much, Theodore, for joining us. And thank you, everyone, for watching. And until I see you next time, be committed to protecting our planet, protecting our economy, and connecting people.